had been shot and began rendering aid, and we've been investigating ever since.
What type of event was going out here late in the night, last night and this morning?
We're still trying to figure that out. As we've learned so far, there was a party at the residence in question where the shooting occurred.
The people, do you have any suspects at this point? Are there people you're still looking for involved with this shooting?
We're not commenting on suspects at this time. We are fully investigating and trying to establish motive in those responsible.
Any idea on how many people could potentially be involved in this?
More than one. We don't have an exact count at this time.
How many injuries? How many shot? How many killed? Do you mind going over that again for me?
A dozen total injuries. One of those dozen is deceased. Another is critically injured. The rest are in area hospitals.
As you can see, I have North Carolina's chart on the left, and I have the crime event on the right. What happened, the way that I see it, is that the second house was critical. It was critical with endings, with prisons and hospitals, with drinking and drugging, and the values. There was something of value that was limiting with war. Saturn at a 0029 in Aries in that second house is the same degree as North Carolina's 0029 series in their fourth house of Pisces. The energy with Admetos in the fourth house of Gemini at a 437 was at the same degree as North Carolina's Kronos in Aquarius in their third house of communications. There was a breakup. Something took place with at least two people, with money, with values, with things, with possessions. It could be that someone stole something, because that second house of values is about money. It's about things that we own. There was limits and obstacles taking place with North Carolina at this exact moment. And Aries is about the head. It's about a head wound. Saturn is about authority. The lunar nodes are at a 23-29. The south node is in the seventh house of relationships, and the north node is at a 23-29 in Pisces in the first house. The lunar nodes are making their way to the public, to the public image of North Carolina at a 23-26 with their Selena in Leo. I'll bet the North Node in Pisces is in their fifth house of kids. And then the South Node at a 23 degree in Virgo is in the 11th house of groups for North Carolina and how they bring in money. Their friend group. Venus had just graced the same degree as North Carolina's moon in the 11th house of Virgo. We can see that Mars at a 21-09 in Leo and the moon at a 18-05 in Leo. It's about relationships, and it is reflecting a relationship in that seventh house with Mars. Mars is the warring with the school kids, relationships, the action and the publicity. And it had to do with something from the past, an old beef, an old warring. In fact, there had been a relationship with that Juno at a 2025 in Scorpio had just graced the 2027 Admetos in the third house of communications in Capricorn, North Carolina's chart. Someone older here. Mars and the moon conjunct is in North Carolina's 10th house. That's where it is in transit. So Mars and the moon are opposing the fourth house of home with groups. And the way that North Carolina shines, the moon was in an opposition to the sun. The house party. Not only had Venus graced the moon of North Carolina, But there is an investigation with groups that is coming with Pallas. Pallas at a 2502 is actually sitting in North Carolina's fourth house of home. But that 2502 is also going to make contact with the degree of the moon for North Carolina in Virgo. That moon in Virgo at a 2505 is exactly where Pallas is coming to. In just a few hours, there is going to be a massive investigation with the group and the reflection of health. The degrees in our chart literally matter in the state of matter. Not only do the placements and the aspects matter, but so do the degrees. I can see that the sun is at a 1057, Mercury at a 1328, Vulcan at a 1337, and Jupiter at a 2802 in Gemini. All of that is in transit in North Carolina's eighth house of death, rebirth, regeneration, other people's money, things that are hidden with the investigation. And it is shining a light on at least two people. Chiron in Aries in that second house at a 2542. Well, it had just left North Carolina's 2541. It had already made contact with Eris, the goddess of war and strife. And this is with the second house of values, of money, with relationships. Juno had been at that 2027 with Admetos as well at this time. And it was around 7:45 p.m. that this would have taken place on the 31st. With Chiron and Aries in that second house is sitting at the descendant degree of the FBI. The FBI rises at a 2542 in Libra. They descend at a 2542 in Aries. Let's compare the FBI chart on the left to the crime event on the right. Chiron at a 2542 there in the second house of the crime chart in Aries is sitting at the descendant where the FBI descends with relationships at a 2542. They are sharing pain with relationships. Neptune for the FBI in the ninth house of higher learning, the quick movement of energy at a 1518 in Cancer. Neptune is making contact with Kronos in the fifth house of kids and creativity. It's about education. It's about children. The 1518 is representing a timing with Kronos. The 1518 in Cancer, Kronos is just sitting on the FBI's Neptune. And it does so for 24 hours. This is a collective transitory energy with Kronos. Kronos is about the timing. It's a devouring energy. And it was at a house where this took place. There was a house party. Venus at a 2507 and Pallas again at a 2502 in Aquarius. Venus and Pallas are at a 2507, 2502, and it is coming to grace the Pluto in Gemini for the FBI. That means two people. We are dealing with two people, possibly two deaths, and the perpetrators would be at least two. We're dealing with at least two people. During this crime event, Jupiter is in the fifth house of kids. It is at a 2802 in Gemini. Again, we're talking about two people. Communications are expanding with the law. At the same time, Uranus is at a 2807. So what's going to happen is today, on June 1st, Jupiter is going to expand communications at the same exact degree as Uranus. Uranus will be at a 2808. Jupiter will be at a 2808. Again, about the house party and what they know now. I also want to show something that's very important as well. Looking at this crime event, the second house is very critical at a 2946 outer wheel in Pisces and the 2946 outer wheel of the eighth house in Virgo. That 2946 is the midheaven and the IC degree of the FBI. This event was fated with the FBI. It was fated with North Carolina. And when bad things happen like this, I just remind myself that we live in a dual world. Fate always has its day. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good jazzy junk. And if you would like a personal session with me, please go to my stand store and book your session. Until next time, peace out.